Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the Lonely Artist podcast. I'm your host, Ariane, and today I will be the only person speaking in this episode. And the reason why that is because this is the last episode of the year, and I wanted to do something quite possibly very egocentrical of me, but also something that I thought would be interesting or fun to do. Since I haven't done this before, I don't think. And my idea is to answer the questions that I usually ask my guests, but, from my own artistic journey. I honestly, now that I think about it, if I was to be put in the spot like I am right now for my podcast with all the questions that I ask other people, I'd probably be very nervous. I am a little bit nervous right now. But without any other kind of introduction, I guess, let's begin. Although, wait, if I am doing this the same way as I do it with every other guest, I guess I'm going to be giving you a very tiny, little, teeny tiny introduction about myself. Well, as you know, if you've been listening to this podcast for a while, my name is Ariane, and I am currently 26 years old. I'll be turning 27 in January of 2022, which is not relevant to my art career, but I thought you guys should know. And I guess you could say I am a Mexican artist. I create both illustrations as well as comics, and I also create content for the internet in the form of YouTube videos, TikTok videos, and other things here and there, like this podcast, for example. And I don't know what to say about myself. I'm kind of putting myself on the spot right here. A few other important things to know about myself is I have no formal art education. I never went to college for anything related to anything at all. In fact, I never went to college. Most of the things that I've learned art-wise have been completely on my own, using the internet. And I would love to call myself a full-time artist, but I also work as a graphic designer to be able to make some money. But my dream is to one day completely dedicate myself to my own work and my own artistic endeavors. So yeah, that is the little intro, which wasn't all that little, but yeah, that's me in a nutshell, if I had to describe myself without a script. So the first question that I usually ask everybody is how they started with their art journey. And my beginning with that was from childhood, I guess, ever since I was little, which is like most of everybody's experiences that I bring in the podcast. I remember drawing from, obviously not from the day that I was born, but I remember drawing since I have a memory, I guess is what I'm trying to say. I remember always having a notebook with me or a sketchbook and having a pencil or a pen and just doodling away. I remember I used to apparently create a lot of distraction when I was in elementary school because I would draw right after I was finished with my assignments, and I would start talking to my drawings for some reason and distract all of my other peers. So yeah, I've been drawing for a long time, and I've been the weird person I am since I can remember. My fascination has always been hand in hand with the power to create stories through art, not only drawing them, but also writing them. And I've always had a very deep passion and love for film, animated film, and cartoons. So when I was a kid and people would ask me like, what do you want to be when you grow up? My answer would always be a cartoonist. At the time, I didn't really know what that entailed. I wanted to be a cartoonist, and that's what I knew I wanted to be. And I just knew that that meant drawing cartoons. And look at me now, 26 years old, and I am still drawing cartoons and talking to my drawings, although not out loud, and creating stories as well. So yeah, that's when my art journey began. So ever since I have a memory and an ability to hold a pencil. Now, usually when I do the interviews, I kind of tailor the questions to whoever I'm interviewing. But for me personally, I'm just going to go with the flow and going to tell you some things about where I'm at right now. And hopefully that makes for good content. And if not, I hope that I can just be a nice little voice while you're doing some chore or your homework or cleaning the house. I don't know. Or drawing even. That would be cool. So I'm currently working very hard on 2 comics. And those 2 comics are one called Oddworlds and another one called Bring Me Love. And my focus is mainly on those 2 things. I decided that I really wanted to put a lot of effort into creating a universe that I could expand upon in the following years. And that's how Oddworlds began. I started developing Oddworlds and creating all the pre-production for the comic back in the start of this year in January, and I remember thinking about what characters would appear on my story and how every one of them would fit into it, and how I would have this big cast of main characters, but how they would all get their own little place in the story and still be, important to it. And I guess I also wanted to create something that would be a little bit more diverse, something that I would have loved to have read when I was younger, or even now, something that I would find myself enjoying and be excited about. And that's how this unique idea for the comic came about. I wanted to create a queer fantasy drama that explored not only the power of friendship, but also the power of being true to yourself, of finding love or understanding love in different ways, as well as understanding your own sexuality. And I wanted to do that through a cast of diverse people with different sexualities, even with different genders, and just something that would speak to people who don't usually have the opportunity to read about themselves on media. And yeah, it's kind of a love letter to all the queer people out there, people that are out of the ordinary and people that don't necessarily fit into any kind of particular description that we're used to hearing. And that is my love letter to them and to myself. And that's how Oddworld came about. Now, Bring Me Love was another whole story, like completely different. I was talking to a friend about my queer experiences in life and just how hard it is sometimes to like let people in, especially as someone who I would say I'm a person who is pretty dismissive with other people. And we were talking about this, and I kind of had this idea of a little scene of 2 people meeting for the first time. And I drew it. I loved it. I kept drawing it. And then, I initially only drew it for myself. But then I was like, this is kind of interesting and fun. Maybe some people will appreciate it. And so I posted the first 3 pages of this comic, and people really responded well to it. So I thought, you know what, I'm just going to keep going. And that's how I kept going with that comic, and just kind of having a completely different process for it, because here is Oddworlds, where I took almost like half a year or even more to create this story and to think it, very thoroughly, and then post it 6 to 7 months later. And then there's Bring Me Love, which is kind of something that just appeared out of nowhere. I just drew it for like a week and then didn't post it, and then the next week I posted it, and boom, there it was. It was a story, and I just kept going with it, and I've kept going with it ever since. And that was really fun because there's this person in me who's always kind of like a planner and anxious and worried about a story, who wants to do everything perfectly. And then there's this other side of me who's like spontaneous. Spontaneous and just kind of impulsive and raw. And then that story came about. And these two projects are kind of my babies because they explore different sides of me. They allow me to express different things in different tones, and it's just been a really fun ride. Something that I'm hoping will be just as fun for everybody else to read. But yeah, I think I've gone on a ramble about my comics for long enough. The only other thing I will say about comics in general is that I do want to give everybody like a good story, right? A quality story, not only visually but writing wise. And so I'm taking a few weeks this December to develop Bring Me Love a little bit deeper, as well as create a buffer for both of the comics. And Oddworlds, I'm just rewriting a few scenes just so that they're a little bit easier to read and just more fun. But yeah, there's always that part of me who is going to take the time to write something or rewrite something and fix it. Because I just want to give everybody the best quality work that I can. And at this moment, that is what I've posted is what the best is what I've how do I say this? So what I've posted up to this point has been the best I can deliver to you guys. But I am hoping to improve on everything. And that is always my goal, to learn and to improve. And that's what I'll hopefully keep doing with that work. Another part of my identity as a creator or artist, I guess, is my videos. And I really don't know how I want to go about my YouTube channel, because I love creating just random different types of videos. I really like creating little animation story time videos. I really enjoy making like challenges, art challenges. I also enjoy making lists, like the favorite top 5 Canvas webtoon comics of the month. And so I'm just still trying to find a way to make everything cohesive and make it more digestible for people to consume and more predictable, so that people know exactly what they're getting into when they subscribe to my channel. But I'm still working on that, and that's something that I'll probably keep working on for the future. But it's another project that I feel very happy about and passionate about, because like I said, I like animation and I like movies, and that type of visual media really stimulates me. So I'm very much inspired to keep creating something cool and interesting with that if I have the time, because creating comics, oh my god, nobody tells you how demanding that is, but it is so demanding, and so it takes a lot of my time. But I'm very happy that it does, and I'll keep being happy that it will take a lot of my time, because I'm enjoying it, so it's all worth it in the end. I want to talk about who my biggest inspirations are at the moment. My biggest inspiration of the year has been Arcane, to be honest, because wow, that show is so good. The art is beautiful, to begin. The soundtrack is great. I love it. The action scenes are just mind-blowing. The colors are just chef's kiss. But also the writing is really good. And I'm usually expecting for content that has been inspired by video games to not be as great, because some movies are just not that great, because there's not a lot of, I guess, lore to go to build from to create a movie or a show or whatever. Yeah, lore, is that correct? Well, anyway, there's usually not that much like writing material from a game to make it into a movie or a show. But obviously League of Legends has so much lore to it, and people are so passionate about it, and you can totally tell in this show how much people love it and loved creating it. And so that is my biggest inspiration at the moment. But people-wise, If we're going for like the classics, I am a big fan of Gustav Klimt. I also love Degas, and I love anything that has to do with impressionists. I don't know, there's just something about that kind of free and raw, but also very aesthetically pleasing style of art. And if we're coming more to like people who actually are still alive right now, I'm enjoying the classics, I guess you could say, as well, digitally. Like Loish, of course, is one of my biggest inspirations. There's this guy that I really like. I'm not going to butcher his name, so I'm literally looking him up on Instagram right now. His name is Tony Infante, and I really like his work. I think his work is incredible and amazing. You should definitely check them out. And I also really used to love Kenan Lafferty, but I don't think he's doing that much art anymore, which is kind of sad. But it's just such an amazing teacher and artist. I also love a person that is called Anato Finstark, and he's more of like a concept artist, and his work is also just mind-blowing. And I'm trying to think of one more person that I really love and enjoy their work, but I can't think of them right now. So I'm just going to go with those few people that I mentioned. And yeah, those are my inspirations at the moment. And you guys know that because this is a place of support, I like to mention some small art accounts that I follow and that I love, some artists that I feel deserve a lot more love and attention. And I want to tell you guys their handles, so I am going to be looking them up just so that I don't mess them up, because I'm not the type of person to remember names at all, so bear with me here. So number one is .swapu or .swap on Twitter, and their name is Nana. Their art is just so inspiring to me. They draw their OCs, and they have this whole, like, I don't know, like, you feel like you're looking at illustrations with so much history to them, and they're so inspiring. So they are definitely somebody that I look up to and that I feel very lucky to call my friend. So that is one small art account that I wish to plug. There are a lot of other people who I'm going to quickly mention just because I have such a nice and loving community on Instagram of artists that I want to, share with you guys. So another person that I really, really love their work, who I feel they need to post a little bit more often just because I miss their work so much, but who you still definitely need to follow, is Sina Draws. She is an amazing artist, and I actually had her on the podcast as well. And honestly, like, everybody who I've had on the podcast, you should definitely check them out. So just pretend like I am recommending every single one of them. Also, .swap was also in the podcast. So basically everybody who I've had on the podcast I want to recommend to you guys. And I'll leave the link to the podcast playlist in the description, just so that you guys can follow them. And yeah, so that is easier than me just like saying a bunch of random names. People who I have not had on the podcast, who I will at some point in time, who I also want to recommend, are Ponloid. I really think that their work is very interesting and different and unique. Melly Apt, who is also a fellow comic creator, who is just amazing. Let me think of somebody else. I'm probably not going to mention everybody because I have terrible memory and I'm pretty bad at, that. But if I can think of anybody else, I'll just leave them in the description below. But there's so many people that I, respect and love in the art community. So also, if you feel like you'd like to follow a lot of new art accounts, just go to my Instagram and check who I follow. I don't really follow that many people, so you'll be able to see the list pretty quickly. Now, the advice I want to give people who want to follow the artist journey is to try and stay true to your own voice and to yourself, to your creativity. It's easy to want to create things that are catered to people who follow you, that are catered to the social media platform that you use to build your art career. But it kind of takes away from your uniqueness and your genuine self. And I feel like it's very important to always try and go back to that place of naive inspiration and like pure love for your craft. I hope that makes sense and it's not like super like poetic-y and like, I don't know, weird advice. But yeah, just stay true to yourself is what I'm trying to say. Find your own voice and stick to it. Obviously, always be open to learn from other people, but just make art for you and then the rest will come. And that is my advice, and I'm going to stick to it. So my plans for the future, basically, I just want to keep working on my comics. I want to make, the best comics I can make with both of them. I already have 2 other comic stories that I want to post and, publish in the future, but I'm going to do that when I'm done with the ones that I'm currently working on, because I don't think I can take more than just 2 stories at a time. And I also want to grow my YouTube channel. I want to create interesting content that is, in video format. And I'm going to mainly focus on webtoons and YouTube. Kind of Instagram is just there for me to post like here and there, and just as, a place for me to hang out with my peers and my friends. And maybe to like bring some people into my webtoons and my YouTube. But my main focus is at the moment is my comics and my videos, and also my Patreon, which is something that I wish to grow because I would love for people to support me in order for me to keep making the work I want to make. But those are mainly my plans. Just keep working on what I love and hopefully it'll bear fruit. Finally, my special magical art power. This is the favorite one, at least my favorite question, and the one I always leave for the last minute. If I could have any magical art power, it would be to always feel grateful and joyful about my ability to create something from nothing. And I know it doesn't sound as fun as like, oh, I want to, project my dreams into like actual drawings and things like that. But I think one of the hardest things for me is to like truly appreciate my work and truly be grateful for, the things that I create. I'm always very critical of myself. So a magical art power for me would be to not be as critical, but also feel joy and gratefulness from simply making anything at all, just anything that is beautiful for me, or like I don't know, how do I explain this? A magical art power for me in that sense would be to just find joy, even if it's something small, even if it's just a piece of art that nobody will ever see from me, and just keep finding that gratefulness and joyfulness from that, without seeking external approval or expecting something to happen from it or expecting to create money from it or whatever. That would just be so amazing. But if I had to stick to something like more conventional as a magical art power, it would definitely be to like be able to translate what's in my head into a piece of art. That would be great. That and the possibility of being super fast so I can finish things more quickly and make more art. And that will wrap up the interview. I hope it wasn't too rambly and just all over the place. I hope you were able to take something interesting from it, and I hope that I won't lose you after this episode, and that you'll keep listening to the interviews that I have with other people. Because let's be honest, they are the ones who make this podcast interesting. So don't worry, there'll be more people joining me next year. But for now, I'm going to let you guys go. I hope you had fun, and I'll see you on the next episode.